this could be a great sign when it comes to Donald Trump possibly winning the state of Pennsylvania, the most important state of the 2024 election. You can see the breaking news that they've got Democratic mail in votes have declined at more than twice the rate as Republicans since 2020 at this point. Biden won the state by around 81,000 votes. You can see the difference at this point. I would imagine they're comparing where we're at right now in early September of 2024 with where it was in 2020. And obviously, people will say, well, there's going to be more mail in ballots in 2020 because of the pandemic. But this is comparing both Republican and Democrat. You can see the difference. Obviously, Democrats have way more mail in ballots just in general. In 2020, 878K. Republicans were at 305K. Republicans have gone down by almost 7%. So you can see they've gone down by about 22K in terms of mail-in ballot requests, as opposed to Democrats well over 100K, almost like 130K total in terms of that. So 22K versus like 130, that's a difference of around 100K. Republicans lost the state by 81K. So you're talking about a bigger difference. Again, this is not an end all be all, because maybe there'll be a bunch of requests coming up, but this is comparing. It's not comparing 2020 versus 2024 versus 2020. This is comparing Democrat Republican requests and how much the Democrats have dropped in 2024 versus the Republicans. And I guess the only other argument could be, well, considering there were way more Democrats that were afraid of the pandemic and wanted to stay home and vote in 2020, you're going to get a lot more of them wanting to go out and vote in 2024. So that's why it's down by more. But this is still pretty crazy when you look at the difference. And you would say that would at least help Trump by, you would have to say 20, maybe 30,000 votes. And if you're talking about 81K votes, remember, we've already got the crazy voter registration numbers that have come out of Pennsylvania that signal Donald Trump has made up so much ground with where we were in 2020 versus 2024. It's like a 400K difference in terms of Republicans, Democrats, voter registration. They had a huge lead, and it's been cut in half, or I think even more than half, because 800K, now it's like 350 their lead in terms of voter registration, Democrats versus Republicans in the state of Pennsylvania. So they've cut that down, and now you've got the mail-in votes here declining significantly more, 15%. Again, some of that is going to be because there were more Democrats that were afraid of the pandemic, and now maybe they're saying we're not scared anymore, we'd rather vote in person. But still, to see a 15% versus around a 7%, that's more than double. That signals that there are going to be, you would figure, more Republicans, at least in terms of the mail-in difference. It would be a lot closer. And also on top of that, with the voter registration, with all the recent polls where Trump's outperforming his numbers in 2020 and 2016, and he won in 2016 and he barely lost in 2020, Pennsylvania is looking really good. You can see the data with Biden winning the state by 81K. This is huge news for Trump's election chances, because it means Democratic mail-in enthusiasm is falling off, and not just by more than Republicans in raw numbers, but at twice the rate. 2020 was a pandemic year, so fall-offs were expected. But obviously, this is the comparison, Republican versus Democrat. There are always going to be fall-offs because, again, 2020 people were afraid of the pandemic. It could be a worrying sign for the Democrats because they need mail-in voting to run up the score as in-person. Yeah, in-person is always going to favor Trump. So anytime you can see a decrease of around 15%, it is good. We know some of those people will be voting at the polls, and just because they're less afraid of a pandemic, but still, you wouldn't expect that to fully carry over, meaning this would signal that they are losing, at least to some degree, some of their voter base that they had in 2020. Certainly a lot of their mail-in voter base, and that can signal that the Republicans are at least, again, gaining maybe 20 or 30,000. This would suggest it would be over 100K, but we would expect some of these people to show up and vote in person rather than the mail-in. That's why they didn't have mail-in ballots here in 2024. But still, this is a really good sign. Pennsylvania is the most important state in the election. We would expect Pennsylvania and Wisconsin to go to Trump. Michigan's going to be a little bit harder, but it too could go to Trump by about half a point to a point. These are really good numbers coming out, and we will see if that does end up holding. We've got some other stuff that I did want to talk about. Trump has two very straightforward paths to victory that do not require sweeping swing states: North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania. Yeah, so that's the number one path. It's I mean, he won North Carolina in 2020 and 2016. So now with his numbers, you would think it would be even easier in 2024. He would have to flip Georgia and Pennsylvania. Both of those states he won in 2016. He lost in 2020. Georgia was like 20K votes. Pennsylvania, I just talked about it, was around 81K votes. That I think would be the easiest way to victory. You do also have North Carolina, Georgia, and then you do have to win Arizona and Wisconsin. Arizona is a state that's kind of up in the air right now. I do think Nevada's probably got a higher chance than Arizona, but even Arizona, I would say around a 60% chance Trump wins it. Wisconsin, I would say it's similar to Pennsylvania. You could even argue Wisconsin, maybe. Obviously, the polls would say, well, actually, I'm not even sure. The polls are just so close. It's like Trump's leading Wisconsin by 0.4. He's leading Pennsylvania by 0.5. It's really tight, but you could make an argument either Pennsylvania or Wisconsin could be, in terms of which one's easier for Trump to win. It's just so close. But this is North Carolina and Georgia are both very important. That they are very important. And yes, this would allow Trump to lose Nevada. Well, Nevada's only 6 electoral votes, so it's nothing crazy anyways. Certainly you would like to take it because that would be a swing of 12 because Harris would be losing the 6 in Nevada and Trump would be gaining them. But Nevada, obviously, it's a little bit less. You would much rather win Michigan, but Michigan is the one state we're really looking at because the trend in Michigan has not been necessarily positive for Trump in recent weeks in terms of the polling. And it's not just like, oh, he's down by 1, he's down by 2, he's down by 1. It's like constant, like down by 3, 3, 3, 4. And listen, these are just the polls. Of course, they've been wrong by, I mean, we've seen the final aggregate poll where you average out all of them be wrong by 7 or 8 points in swing states like Wisconsin in 2020 and 2016. The polls could be wrong by 7 points. So even if Trump is down by 3 or 4 in a state like Michigan, he could very easily win it by 2 or 3. That's just the way the polling is. It's not exactly the most accurate thing, especially considering we're in early September anyways. And then we also do have another thing that I want to talk about. Oh yeah, this was funny with Alexa.
Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot provide content that promotes a specific political party or a specific candidate.
Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
While there are many reasons to vote for Kamala Harris, the most significant may be that she is a strong candidate with a proven track record of accomplishment. As the first female...
I love how it goes into full bot mode. She's a strong candidate. Like, that's the number one, most generic thing you can say about someone if you're trying to make people vote for them. She's a strong candidate with a great track record. Yeah, she's got a great track record. She did win 0 votes. That is, I mean, she didn't make it to Iowa and then she won 0 votes in 2024. They installed her. No. She does have a good track record. She does. She was one of the, I think she's like the most unliked VP in history in terms of approval rating. No. You're right. She has a good track record.
Female vice president, Harris has already broken down a major gender barrier, and her career in...
But how is that but see, I'm not going to get triggered by this thing. I'm not going to get triggered by it. But it is funny. I mean, dude. All right, I'm just going to play this and then I'll react to it.
The politics of it is, am I better off than I was 4 years ago?
Exactly.
Do you lose on that basis?
Right now, if you want to know whether, not only whether families are better, but the entire United States is better, Donald Trump left office with net loss of 3 million jobs, with a 6.3% unemployment rate, with an economic contraction of 3.4%. Right now, we have 16 million jobs added. We have the strongest economy in the world, and we have the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. So this idea that we're somehow not better off under Joe Biden.
All right, so much of what he just said was a misrepresentation, was a lie. And I'm sure people know this, but I really hope independent people watch this and understand this. This is so bad that if Donald Trump would have taken Democrats' advice, and I'm sure most of us realize that he's using the whole COVID thing as a way to say Donald Trump's a terrible president, because when he left office, of course, COVID was raging and you had his economy got destroyed because of it. But if Donald Trump would have listened to Democrats, the unemployment would have been worse. Because remember, their number one criticism of Donald Trump was that he was letting people die by opening up the government and the economy too soon because he only shut it down for a month. So their original criticism was that he didn't keep everything shut down. Now you're hearing them say that, oh, they lost so many jobs. Well, if Donald Trump would have listened to Democrats, they would have lost triple, quadruple the amount of jobs. They would have. So, like, you see, you can never win with these people. And of course, they do the thing where we've added all, like, he says this is the strongest economy. What metric are you using? The stock market? Because I could go into office and print $3 trillion and have the highest stock market in human history. Does that mean it's a good economy? Do you think inflation maybe has a little bit to do with the record high stock market? And then he talks about the lowest unemployment rate. You have to understand a lot of the whole low unemployment, it's part-time jobs that aren't valuable. And also, this came out in statistics. They take, if somebody has 2 or 3 jobs, that counts towards lowering the unemployment. That's why it's, they say, we've got record job growth. It's because people, because of how bad inflation is, they're telling on themselves. Their own arguments are counterproductive. They're saying we've got record job growth. Yes, because the economy is so, if we had a great economy, why would people have to get second and third jobs? I don't think it's true, but it's just like, so you see, it's all a contradiction, all of it. Donald Trump left office. We lost all these jobs. If it were up to liberals, their argument was that Donald Trump didn't lose more jobs because they wanted everything shut down for months on end. And they said Donald Trump was killing people when he opened up everything and allowed people to go back to work and allowed small businesses to operate again. And even that in certain states, I mean, because a lot of the pandemic was a state to state thing. You go to California, it's going to be a lot different than in Florida. That's the whole DeSantis versus Newsom thing. But you just go to see so many of these points. If you break them down, it's just so false. Their argument now is that Donald Trump lost all of these jobs. Well, number one, yes, it was because of the pandemic. That's the only, by the way, that is the only reason. That is the only reason they can argue it. And then they say they added a record number of jobs. No, the jobs that were lost during the pandemic got added back in the years after. That's not job growth. And then, of course, they also use the whole part-time thing. But no. We've got a great economy. People just have to get second and third jobs. Yeah, we have record. I mean, listen, it makes total sense. We've got record high stock market. We've got lowest unemployment, so why would people be getting second and third jobs? Maybe it's because the underlying inflation is causing all of it. And of course, you don't hear them mention inflation at all. But this just goes to show you how much these people manipulate things. And it's all total gaslighting because originally Trump opened up everything too soon. He allowed people to go back to work too soon. And he was this big, horrible person who killed, I mean, they said he killed millions. Remember, you want to know, CNN, MSNBC, they had the death counters up where they would count how many people would die. And it was like updated in real time. The reason they did that was because that's the purest form of propaganda. They wanted to show in big, bold letters how many, or big, bold numbers, how many people Trump was killing, like, per minute. That's how evil they are. And of course, that in and of itself is a misrepresentation because a lot of those people, number one, you had hospitals that were incentivized to label every death as a COVID death due to insurance. And number two, most of those people were very old and they had other underlying problems, health issues. Is like 3 or 4 health problems combined with it. And so like, it was all this fear mongering. But like, this is a perfect example of just how absurd it actually is when you break it down. Their entire argument originally was that Donald Trump should have lost more jobs and we should have had higher unemployment. Do you understand why that is? Because they said that Donald Trump opened things up too quickly and he killed people because of it. And now they're arguing that Donald Trump, I guess, kept everything closed and had the unemployment. So it's never winning. You can never win. You can never win. This is just a perfect example. I think he said something about the economy.
Right now, we have 16 million jobs added.
16 million jobs added. No, those were all the jobs. Number one, a lot of that's part-time crap that people have to get because of how bad inflation is because of this administration. Number two, the jobs have been added because the COVID is over. Or I'm not going to say it's over. Obviously, the whole lockdowns and everything like that, that's all gone. So obviously, the jobs are going to come back during Biden's administration. Trump left office at the heart of COVID, so all those numbers fall on him to where the jobs don't get added back while he's in office, and they can manipulate numbers like this. This is lying. This is manipulation. Everybody knows it. Everyone sees through it, and that's exactly how you explain it. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.